Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Tuesday, November 11th edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you from the WellPoint Studios here in downtown Lowell on this Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day, or is it really Happy Veterans Day? I guess so, but more importantly, thank you to all of the veterans out there in our audience, in our community. Thank you for your service, regardless of where it was and when it was. Our nation certainly owes you a debt of gratitude. So we thank you here on this Veterans Day, and hopefully we'll honor you with a little Democratic freedom talk on this Tuesday morning. We got a lot to talk about, and looky here, you might have caught a glimpse on the opening shot. There she is. It's a holiday.
It's you and I today, Teddy.
Just you.
Been a little bit since it's just been the two of us.
It has been. You actually have a real job. You have to work weekdays, so I have to pick my spots on the holidays or Fridays to get you in here. But as soon as I realized today was a holiday and that I wasn't taking the day off, I'm like, I got to get Jo Marie in here, because there is so much happening in your town of Tewksbury and the little orb around it that does come into Lowell as well on multiple news stories. So we're going to unfurl all of them with Jo Marie Buckley. Quickly, let me just thank my Daily Pulse sponsors, Ray Booten, licensed realtor in Mass and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both states as well. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home, a business, or a commercial property, get in touch with Ray today. And the good news is he's easy enough to find online at realestaterayBooten.com. That's realestaterayBooten.com. Thanks as well to WellPoint for hosting us here in the WellPoint Studios. It's the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. And we thank WellPoint, we thank Ray, some other sponsors that we'll thank for making all of our podcasts possible in just a little bit. But let's get right down to it. And the big story for your district, Seth Moulten, your United States Congressman, the 6th district here in Massachusetts, has announced that he is going to run for the United States Senate, challenging Ed Markey. And that has got all these other dominoes falling in your district. Oh my gosh, somebody's got to replace Moulten. Some of those people hold office currently. They're going to get replaced if they're successful, or, well, actually, no, they're not even running, so they will have to get replaced. Right. And then our little state Senate race here in Lowell is also spinning out into your district. Yeah. So let's start with the biggest domino of them all, Seth Moulten. Yes. Seth Moulten versus incumbent Ed Markey.
Yep. So first of all, well, let me just say, I wanted to piggyback on you thanking the veterans. I wanted to thank the veterans' families. So my children's father was in the U.S. Army, and when he was deployed, I saw how his kids had to deal with that. And so I always, on Veterans Day, I think of the families, the spouses, the kids, the grandparents, everyone who has to kind of rally when someone is in the military. So thank you to the veterans' families as well.
Very nice touch, because the families also sacrifice to a degree, and sometimes when their loved one pays the ultimate sacrifice, that leaves a broken family.
Absolutely. Anyway, so anyway, who wins? I don't think Seth Moulten. No. And we'll see. No, I think it's going to be interesting. I think I saw it on your notes. I did take a little peek. I think he has come out in recent months with some controversial positions. I think he's going to try to get out of those now. I think if you've noticed kind of the recent media with the shutdown, he's trying to kind of take a stand. He's tagging Ed Markey in it to try to see how Ed Markey is going to respond. I'm really interested to see how that campaign plays out, but I'm not sure at one time, I will, and this is kind of old Marie Ardito, my mom, old-time Democrats would look at him and say he's going to be president someday. I'm not sure that mentality still exists.
He ran for president, albeit briefly. Right. But so you highlighted exactly what my thoughts were. He's trying to out-left a guy who's attached himself to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Ed Markey, for survival back in 2020 when he was challenged by Patrick Kennedy, suddenly became this extreme leftist, and he's once again running in those circles. Is it a smart strategy to try to out-left him, or are you better off trying to be the Seth Moulten people kind of remember? Dare I say the Seth Moulten who, after what they thought was a stunning defeat, rebuke in November, challenged the Democratic Party to say, hey, listen, what are we doing here? And he specifically mentioned the boys in girls sports, which he, by the way, walked back almost as quickly as he laid it out there. But can those words be forgotten by the left, or is it too late for him to wrap himself in that leftist flag?
I think right now what I'm seeing, and again, it's limited, because I think, wasn't he just on like MSNBC? He was on one of like the left, and he was bashing Trump and saying all these things that Trump has gone after newscasts for saying is slander and libel, and he's doing it. And then you see that they're kind of backing him up.
MSNBC
was that
host,
MSNBC?
whoever it was, had to kind of rein him in and say, this is not proven. In other words, be careful. You're opening us up to a lawsuit. And
when I heard that happening, I said, okay, so this is the guy without an identity right now. So the Seth Moulten, we all remember, that the young guy that kind of showed up with the veteran, rolled, sleeves rolled up, was very much, and I've said this before, Teddy, and I apologize if I sound like I'm just beating the same drum at this point. Like, we have these political parties that are not the same political parties that you and I remember from years gone by, right? So maybe at one point he was kind of that young Kennedy-esque Democrat, but I think at this point he almost would do better to move center and to say, I was a veteran. I understand what this country needs. This isn't just about boys playing in girls' sports. This is about getting America back on track and focusing on the things that America actually needs to focus on right now, and not being distracted by the left extremes or the right extremes that our country seems to be so distracted by in these most recent years.
And that's kind of where I consider myself politically, and I'm thinking the same thing as you. If you're going to beat Ed Markey at this stage of Markey's career, you have to do it. You have to differentiate from yourself from him. If you're left as he is, if you're going to try to go further left from him, I don't think you're going to beat him. Just ask Josh Kraft in Boston trying to go further left of Michelle Wu, and he embarrassed himself. Or maybe he was a plant all along to stop a more legitimate contender. I'll put that one aside, but there was a school of thought that the reason Markey, at his, what is he, 76 years old right now?
He's up there.
The reason he declared his candidacy so early and then wrapped himself in the AOC cloak was to discourage anybody. He didn't want another Patrick Kennedy to run against him. And now that somebody has, maybe he decides, you know what, at this stage, even if I win, I'm going to be 83, 84 when I'm serving. Do I really want to do this? Okay,
so this is more of a generalized commentary. I don't think it seems like the majority of politicians who have been career politicians don't generally make that determination. It's usually made for them, either in voting or in death. To be quite honest.
Carl likes to say,
you know what I mean?
He retired due to illness, the voters get sick of him.
Right. I'm not to be disrespectful, but it seems like if you've dedicated your life to the career of being a politician and you've done it for so long, I don't think you necessarily have the clarity to say, now is my time to step down. Unless there's like a severe illness or something going on in your personal life where you're saying, now is the time, I can't keep doing this. I think in reality, you're told it's the time by someone else, by the voters, or by your life circumstance,
which is still a possibility. Look, it's November of 2025. The primary is until September. There's still some time where things could take a turn.
Absolutely.
And Moulten, by getting in the race this early, has positioned himself to be the guy.
Contender. Yep.
That said, he's also got to give up his seat to do that. So now he could be Patrick Kennedy, a man without a land, a political land anyway, come next November.
Right. He could be applying for professor jobs or something like that in 2 years from now.
So you don't seem overly excited. You're from Tewksbury.
Yeah.
You also lived in Wilmington for a time.
Yeah.
Both of those towns in that district now. You would think somebody from your neck of the woods, you'd be excited about being a U.S. Senator. We in Lowell were so excited because Paul Tsongas was one of us when he ascended to the Senate. The reason Lowell got so far behind Lori Turhan was that even though she lived in Westford at the time in 2018, she went to Lowell High. She grew up in Lowell. She was one of us. We knew, and she has governed since getting elected with Lowell as the center of her district, even though she lives in Westford. Tewksbury, Andover, Wilmington, Billerica, are they the center of Seth Moulten's district, or is it Salem where he's from?
And that's you just hit the nail on the head. I think I'm not more excited because on the limited amount of times I've met Seth Moulten, it's been at political activities to support Seth Moulten or Seth Moulten supporters. I don't recall a time that he's ever been in Wilmington or Tewksbury to just, I mean, I
have not seen any news headlines.
I know he has coffee hours every once in a while. I'm not sure how frequently he's been doing them as of late. I know in Wilmington, he used to try to do them, I think, quarterly or twice a year.
He's blown you off about 27 times when you've invited him to come on here to talk
via email.
I bet you he gets responsive early next year.
We'll see.
We'll see. A little friendly bet here?
Sure.
I'm willing to bet you will have Seth Moulten on this
if you want to come on, I would love to have you, and I promise I will be kind.
And you too, Ed Markey.
And you too, Ed Markey. I've actually met Ed Markey before. You know what I mean? So I think the reality is I'm not sure at this point we identify with anyone as kind of our person. It's kind of Ed Markey's been the person for a while, right? So you think of him as the person, but in our person, not necessarily. I don't remember the last time I felt that kind of affiliated with a candidate to that extent, where it's been like, that's my person. That's the person that's going to change things. That's the person that's really going to represent me. I think, unfortunately, we kind of have this fatigue because we're just trying to make sure it's not the other person sometimes.
Was that a different feeling when Tewksbury, and I think even Wilmington, I believe, was part of the same district, the Lowell district in Congress? Did you kind of still feel the same way, though, that the Lowell-based representatives, whether it was Marty Meehan, Nikki Tsongas, or now Lori Trahan, that Tewksbury, Wilmington weren't a big part?
No, I feel like it's unfortunate because I think Tewksbury is significant in a lot of ways. I feel like Tewksbury is an important community in a lot of ways, but I feel like the way that the districts are right now, Tewksbury's never really kind of the focal point. You know what I mean? People need Tewksbury to win sometimes, but it's not the number one need. It's not their focal point. No one's coming at Tewksbury to win Tewksbury first because they know if they get Tewksbury, then everything else is good. Like we're going to talk about some of these other races. Tewksbury is not going to be the linchpin town for any of the races, I think, that are going to be coming up. I think they're going to be kind of the support staff of the people winning or not winning, There's
also the thought that if things had gone differently in the 2020 census, in other words, had Donald Trump been president and not Joe Biden, Massachusetts would have lost a congressional seat. The conventional wisdom was Moulten was going to be forced to run against Trahan, and that district was going to be merged together. The Lowell district was going to be reunited with Tewksbury and whatnot in some new district lining. Did that maybe play a part in Moulten's decision making? Does he see that potentially in 2030 we're heading there? That they're not going to be able to avoid it with the next census?
I don't know. I think it's more he has a career path, and I think this is part of it. I don't necessarily think he's reading the tea leaves about what his current position might be. I think he's looking. I mean, I genuinely think, and I think this of all candidates. I'm not saying this specifically of Seth Moulten. I think if you're running for office, it's because you truly believe that you're going to make a positive impact and that you have an agenda that you think is going to benefit. And I think that's honestly what he thinks. And I think he's always kind of had higher aspirations, obviously. You know what I mean? So
he skipped the U.S. Senate. He went right to the presidency.
So I think now he realizes, there might be a few steps in between, and I'm going to try to take those. I just don't know. Again, kind of when we were talking off camera before this started, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts 20 years ago versus the Commonwealth of Massachusetts today is different, right? Governor Baker's Massachusetts is different than Governor Healey's Massachusetts. And I think that if you're in that world, if that's your world 24/7, I think you're realizing that there's going to be a change, and you can either try to participate in it in a way that makes sense, that you're still going to be a part of it, or you kind of start stepping away from it. And I think he wants to still be a part of it, and this is his next step.
You say it so much more kindly than I do. I prefer to say these people have no freaking principles, and they will change their principles to do whatever it takes to get to that next level to advance their career.
I think it's easy. I think it's simplistic to say that people kind of waffle to kind of fit into some new victory, campaign that they think might make sense. I think I feel it personally. If you had asked me 10 years ago, I've always been unenrolled as an adult. I've always been an unenrolled voter. But 10 years ago, if you said, how do you lean? I would have said, I probably lean more towards the Democratic side. I probably have voted more Democrat in my life than Republican. Today, I don't think I can honestly say that, because it's really difficult at this stage to say, I fully support everything that the Democratic Party represents, or I fully support everything that the Republican Party represents. And I think that's what we're facing now. And I think that's the change in history. When they write about this time in history, that's what I think the focal point is going to be, is when you started to see the evolution of other parties actually being legitimate contenders, and the two-party government that we've been so used to changing in ways that are permanent.
I have predicted to closest people that I'm regularly contact with on text threads and whatnot, we're seeing the death of the Democratic Party. I think it's going to go the way of the Whigs and the Federalists and many others
it's
before
going to be
them.
Interesting.
I think you're going to see a socialist party. Quite frankly, I would like to see the end of the Republican Party, the GOP, and just have a MAGA party, socialists and MAGA, and then see if the people in the middle, the old, centrist Republicans and centrist Democrats can find a new name and kind of reunite in the middle. But I really think, I do agree with you. I think we're kind of at a sea change moment where they'll look back in the history books 100 years from now and say, do you remember that it used to be a Democratic Party, right?
Yeah.
Which, ironically, they'll be known as the Party of Slavery and the Ku Klux Klan. But everybody will forget their transition to, outright leftism.
Right. Well, and that's, if you look at the evolution, of both parties, and it's amazing. It's amazing. I wish, in hindsight, being 49 and kind of looking back over my educational life, I wish I had spent more time in high school and college looking at kind of the political history of things, and not just kind of relying on Hamilton musicals and things and that being the inspiration to read books more about it.
Broadway and Hollywood aren't giving you an accurate
my gosh.
depiction.
No, well, I mean, I have to say, again, you're going to make fun of me, Teddy, because this is such a Jo Marie thing. The first time I saw the Hamilton musical, I went and I got 3 books on Eliza Hamilton, because I just wanted to know kind of the real story behind what the musical portrayed, because I thought I was super interested in that. And I mean, obviously it touched on Alexander a little bit, but I think history is super important, and I think accurate history is super important. And I know we're going to get to it later, but that's what terrifies me about AI is I am that middle-aged woman who watches Instagram Reels and TikToks now and believes that the cat is really out with the coyotes. And then my children have to tell me, Mom, that's fake. That's AI generated. Because I'm like, look at this badass cat out here with the coyotes. And they're like, yeah, that didn't really happen. The coyotes would have eaten the cat, Mom.
I think the most shocking revelation of this first segment of the Daily Pulse is that you said you're 49.
49, guys.
Well, you're certainly living a better life than I. You're taking better care of yourself than
almost over.
Holy crap. We're chatting with Jo Marie Buckley, our Tewksbury Insider. I love to say that because it pisses some people off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They're on the list today.
We're going to continue our discussion today with Jo Marie. We're going to bring it a little bit more local. Who is going to run to replace Seth Moulten? We've got a bunch of names already. Any more to come? And then who's going to fill in the seats that lead up to the folks trying to replace Seth Moulten? Plus, going to talk a little bit about a project in Tewksbury that's starting to sound an awful lot like a political battle we're having here in Lowell, and I'm going to show you a map that might indicate why. First, let's thank all of our Daily Pulse sponsors. Ray Boutin, licensed realtor in Mass and New Hampshire. Find him online, realestaterayBoutin.com. Thanks as well to WellPoint. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Washington Savings Bank, banking that goes the extra mile. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, TMI Cares, developing and managing their own properties for over 30 years. Experience the quality, the care, and the value of making TMI the choice for your home. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to generations of families since 1925. The Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life in our communities through strategic, impactful philanthropy. And last but certainly not least, Francis E. Provencher Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on to insure its most valuable assets since 1982. We continue our discussion with Jo Marie Buckley. All right, Seth Moulten. No sooner had Seth Moulten gotten the words out of his mouth,
and there are people pulling papers,
then the people wanting to represent the 6th Congressional District pulled in. The big fish in the pond familiar name for those of us here in Lowell because he came very close to being our United States Congressman in 2018. Dan Kovh. Was an Andover resident at the time, but he seemed like a Boston candidate because he was working for Boston Mayor Marty Walsh at the time. Does he still live in Andover? Is that a safe
I have no idea.
assumption?
I have no idea.
He went to work in Washington, D.C.,
but still
I believe, thanks to Marty Walsh, who became the labor secretary. I see him on CNN. He's frequently battling Scott Jennings on their panel shows.
So already working on his platform.
Yeah, and he also started debuting a podcast a couple of months ago. If I didn't know better, I would say that Dan Kovh might have had advance word from his congressman Seth Moulten about what he was going to do.
See, well, okay, so I find that super again.
I'm conspiratorial. In case you haven't
totally. Your conspiracy theories are amazing. Like your conspiracy theories are only superseded by my husband's, who is the most amazing conspiracy theory, and he's usually correct, by the way. Like, which is the scariest part about it is that he usually ends up being correct. But one of the names on that list is Rick 𝐁𝐿𝐤𝐥𝐞. I don't know how to say his last name. I used to call him Bowtie Man because he wears a bow tie and he works for Seth Moulten, and he's running for Seth's seat. And I would think he would be the one with the inside information. And he just launched his campaign a few weeks ago, like legitimately launched his campaign a few weeks ago. So I'm not sure Dan had any inside pool information. But I think that's part of it. It's going to be a theme, I think, in a lot of what I say about some of the other candidates. I think it wasn't necessarily if Seth made the announcement. I think some people were starting to prime the pump that even if he didn't, they were going to challenge him at some point. Because I think with some of his statements and with some of his positions in these most recent months, he made some vulnerabilities in himself that people were thinking, I think I can maybe take advantage of that. So whether or not he actually knew what was going to be happening next, or he was just preparing for either way, that it was either going to be a contested race or that he was going to try to take that seat over because Seth was moving on. I think he was, it sounds like he was preparing, as are other people in other arenas. I think, starting to put their toe in the water and make sure their face is seen in certain areas. I think that's what you do when when you're starting to plan for that next step.
So is he the big favorite in this race because of that name recognition, or is he going to run into the same thing he ran into here in Lowell, which was, or I should say the 3rd district, of which Lowell is the center, of which he was kind of seen as, all right, you're kind of a carpetbagger in this whole thing, and we prefer somebody. Again, interesting that you mentioned Rick 𝐁𝐿𝐤𝐥𝐞. He's Topsfield based, but worked for Seth Moulten. He's on his staff.
Right.
So he's in. Lori Trahan was working for Marty Meehan. Now, admittedly, Nikki Tsongas came between Meehan and Trahan, but she had kind of the same experience that Rick 𝐁𝐿𝐤𝐥𝐞 has had. And then we saw the name of a lowly state rep, except she's not that lowly. She became a big story, and from my understanding is a big player on Beacon Hill. Tram Gwynn, the Andover state representative,
correct,
Southeast Asian background. She has part of Tewksbury. The Lowell Southeast Asian community has made her very well known to us now in the area because of that fact. And I'm told she's a very effective state rep, and she is also very effective at raising money. She took out an incumbent Republican. So if Dan Kovh is going to face the same opposition he faced in 2018 as kind of the carpetbagger candidate, just seat shopping, is she going to be the Lori Trahan or maybe the Juana Matias from Lawrence, who got the grassroots support?
Tron Wynn is I think she's the kind of everybody's favorite female, and I think that's why I hate identity politics. But I think when it's going to come down to women power and the future is female, I think that's where she's either going to be a spoiler or a victor in this, because she does have a huge war chest. And she is very clear. I think it's been very clear from the moment she became state rep that was not her end game. And she's very beloved by the Tewksbury Democratic Committee and supported by them. So I think, I think the only way to kind of go at her is to argue how left she might be. And I think that could be the one area that in other districts, I think Tewksbury, knows her and she's going to do okay. I think it's the other areas that she's going to have to really step up and say, this is why I'm ready for this next step, and this is why you don't need to worry that I'm so far over here.
But also in a primary race where, let's be honest, the real activists show up, and on the Democratic Party, the energy is on the extreme left, low turnout, likely. Those September primaries are almost always close to Labor Day and right in the middle of the Jewish holy days and whatnot. So I agree with you. I think she's the favorite. If she can raise that kind of money as a state rep, imagine what she's going to do when she gets the national players in. And, I remember 𝐁 trying to be a little bit of a centrist in 2018. He's completely abandoned that. 𝐤𝐥𝐤𝐚, I don't know where he stands, but you said the key thing. They're men. And as I've observed Massachusetts politics, you put a qualified female candidate in a race with multiple men in it, and the female will almost always win unless there's too many females pulling the vote. And I do see one other female in here who I have to ask, who dat?
Yeah.
Jamie Belcito, former state rep from Swampscott.
Yeah.
Former state rep, Swampscott.
I agree with you.
What's her base? Where's her support going to come from?
She could be the spoiler.
For who?
She could be the spoiler for Tron, in that she might detract some of the female votes, the people who literally just vote for the woman, right? She could be the spoiler for Rick, because it seems like similar bases.
Topsfield, Swampscott, yeah.
Like similar bases. So that would be, Dan would be excited that she threw her hat in the race. I don't think Tron or Rick would be super thrilled about it. And I'd be curious to see how far that actually goes. Because I've heard the name, but I couldn't tell you why I've heard the name. Right. Maybe I've heard the name because she pulled papers.
So 4 names that we know are in. Experience tells us they won't be the only 4. I think there was 11 when all was said and done to replace Nikki Tsongas in 2018. There might be some other big names coming in, or at least names coming in. Your ears are to the ground?
No, they're not. They're not. I told you I have old lady back. I can't get that close to the ground anymore.
You can get down there. Getting back up.
Forget about it. Forget about it.
And are you hearing anybody else's name?
No, not right now. I've said, so Tron I heard really early on. Dan I heard really early on. Rick, I got a call from a former, like a connection to Seth Moulten, saying that he was running and asking for help for Tewksbury. Okay. And I said if he wants to come on, because I do remember he was a hard worker for Seth, but it's going to be interesting to see how he plays it, because does he want to align himself with Seth, or does he kind of want to separate himself at this point and say, I'm my own person, and what he says doesn't necessarily represent how I feel.
All right. So there you go. Dan 𝐁, Representative 𝐁𝐮, Jamie Belcito, Rick 𝐤𝐥𝐤𝐚. Anyone else thinking of getting into that race, you are more than welcome to come here on Inside Lowell. And the best part is, you won't have to deal with me. We've got Joe Marie who can do the interview.
I'll ask all the questions for sure. I didn't realize I can't remember the name of the candidate because he was that forgettable. But Jerry had me interview someone on WCAP like a year ago, and people were commenting on how hard I was on him. And I was like, I literally looked at his website. I watched a few of his interviews on other podcasts, and I asked him some follow-up questions. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but evidently, I'm sorry, guys.
Asking questions can be very
You know what I mean? I'm sorry. I'm sorry for making you think it's my bad.
I like people who ask questions. Contrarians are near and dear to my heart.
I'm curious what people, it drives me crazy in political campaigns especially, but in life in general, when people kind of make these vagary statements about, their position. And they purposely do it. I think in politics, it's as vague as possible so that I can cover as many bases as possible without really committing to something. And so sometimes you like to sneak in there and say, hey, what did this mean? Tell me what this word means to you.
Yes, indeed. So we'll interview them. We'll host debates. We'll offer to do all of it. Joe Marie will take the lead. Not me, I promise. I'll only be here pushing the production button.
Right, because I still haven't learned how to do any of that.
Notes. Nutter's already learned it, so I'm more than happy to have you do it often enough. All right. So I wrote here on my notes, 𝐶𝐤𝐚 wins the race. That doesn't matter, because to run for Moulton seat, she has to not run for her seat. So
this is how this all impacts Tewksbury.
What dominoes are falling there?
So here's the interesting thing, Tewksbury. I hope people are paying attention right now, because 2 out of 3 of our state reps currently are pulling papers to run for other offices.
Who's the other?
Vanna Howard.
Yeah, that's right. God, we'll get to that race in a quick
yeah. So, I mean, I think when you want to talk about how all of this is going to impact Tewksbury, we might lose 2 out of our 3 delegations. Like, Dave Robertson's the only guy still standing.
What office does he want to run for?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, thank you, Dave, for not running for anything else currently, so that we're not losing all 3, right? But I think Tewksbury needs to pay attention, because we have there's a great possibility that at least one of those state reps isn't going to be our state rep any longer, because just of the campaigns coming up and that they've pulled papers. So I think we do have to keep our eyes open here.
All right. So let's look at it. There's got to be rumble. Everybody knows she's now in the race for Seth Moulten's seat, so her seat's going to become open.
Right.
Who's jockeying for position? Is that going to be an Andover person, as she is? Does Tewksbury have a shot to get a little?
So that's the interesting part about it, because she doesn't have a huge part of Tewksbury. Sliver. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure someone in that district of Tewksbury is going to run. I do have a prediction for Vanna, but for Tron, I don't know I think it might be an Andover person. I'm really curious to see who steps up.
All right, interesting. Now I got to start paying attention to the Andover political scene here.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll talk to my sister who lives out there. Okay, so we'll see. We'll follow this in the coming months. It'll start to be soon, because we're getting, I think come the new year, we'll start to hear those names more often. But you mentioned Representative Vanna Howard. We like to call her Lowell's representative, because 95% of her district is Lowell, and she represents the prime Belvedere downtown neighborhoods in South Lowell. She's in what promises to be a slugfest with another state rep.
Right.
2 state reps vying for the seat. For them, though, the benefit is they don't have to risk their seat.
Exactly.
They got a special election, February 3rd primary. Very likely the winner wins March 3rd. I haven't even heard a Republican's name to challenge them in the general special election. What are you hearing? How strong is Vanna Howard in Tewksbury? Can Rodney Elliott or anyone else make some headroads?
I think she's safe in Tewksbury. I think Lowell's going to need to really rally for her, I think, for her to get this. And I think I will say this, and, in the interest of full disclosure, I have met her many times. I'm a fan of hers. I think, I know sometimes she's a little too left for your liking, Teddy, as most people. But she shows up. She has such a small part of Tewksbury that she doesn't need to participate as much as she does. And she shows up and she participates. And I think she genuinely cares about what's going on in her district.
Has she been able to deliver? Has she been able to deliver decent-sized projects or funding, even though that's not... I think the majority of her district is Dave Robertson?
So it's Dave Robertson, but she works with him. I think at the end of the day, when I reach out and I say, hey, I need information about, like, one of my pet projects has been this pilot program in Tewksbury Hospital, and why aren't we part of it? And she responds and she participates. And when I say I'm looking for this information, she'll have someone work on it. And she has that conversation. She cares. I have to say, Tron doesn't respond, and it might be because she's fundraising, and it might be because she's focusing on other things. But Dave and Vanna, I think, they really do put Tewksbury first, even if Tewksbury is not their strongest hold and what they need politically. So I support this race for her. I am concerned if she doesn't win it, she's going to be challenged for state rep, because that's going to be, well, look, she was looking to kind of move on and she didn't get it. So now
challenges are already lining up for her race, win or lose.
Correct.
My only real experience with Tewksbury in elections is I think of it as somewhat a centrist town.
Yeah.
I saw it in the Register of Deeds race where it came up big for Karen Casella. Yeah. Others have told me it was more about the last name Casella, the fact that she works at a well-known restaurant there, Al Fresco's. So she's got connections there. But, in that race, yes, it included Lowell, but she held her own in Lowell. And then she absolutely kicked ass in Tewksbury, Wilmington, Drake, Tingsboro, where she's more of a centrist, not an extreme leftist.
Karen showed up for everything. Her daughter worked at one of the courts that I used to be at a lot. She was a clerk in one of the Lowell courts. And so I met her initially kind of through that connection, just as like a mom of someone I knew. And I went to probably 6 or 7 different kind of community fundraisers, not political fundraisers. She was working. She was showing up at everything. Mm-hmm. So her name recognition wasn't just because of she works at a beloved restaurant in Tewksbury. It was because she was at everything she could be at. And I was happy to see she won because I knew she worked so hard to get to that.
And she was a woman running against 2 guys.
Well, so here's the thing, Teddy.
So this
might be the bitter pill. This could be the bitter pill, though, because I was a woman running against guys at Tewksbury Select Board, and it didn't work out so well for me.
No one likable, according to some people.
Well, that's fine. You know what? I can still sleep at night. But I don't think being a woman is the end all be all. I think it helps for sure. But I think she really worked hard to make sure people knew who she was and what she stood for and that she was going to show up. And she has.
All right. By the way, quick little bit of news in that race. We're working something. Our little political winds are whispering to us that there may be a third candidate in that race. Well, let's just say a third candidate has pulled paperwork. Said candidate has not gone public yet with some thoughts, but it could be a really fascinating twist in that what we thought was going to be a match race between Vanna Howard and Rodney Elliott, 2 state representatives with a Lowell base. Representative Elliott has kind of a Chelmsford component to his seat as well. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out because, quite frankly, neither Tewksbury nor Chelmsford is in the Senate district.
Right.
So it's going to be all Lowell in that race. Please follow Inside Lowell. Maybe today, in coming days for that. We also had some news stories, InsideLowell.com and our Facebook page, a couple of big political stories. We will be having a recount in the 3rd District City Council race. Dan Finn has told us that he will file a petition for a hand recount. That story's online at InsideLowell.com. Plus, we're continuing to follow the ongoing mayoral situation here in Lowell. Who will be the next mayor? Can they secure those votes in the near future? Stay with InsideLowell.com for more on that. All right. I want to switch gears with you now and talk about a project that has Tewksbury energized.
You went there.
But has some folks pissed. And quite frankly, it's starting to sound to me a little bit like a political debate we've had the last couple of months here in Lowell over what we were told was the future, except how many people are ready for the future?
Yeah.
We're talking about the East Point Energy battery storage facility.
Yes. Very controversial.
As background, all these green energy, solar, wind, whatever, they're useless. Well, they're slightly more valuable than useless, but pretty close during high demand, high peak energy usage hours.
Correct.
Winter, summer, when air conditioning heaters are going, whatever. And the only chance that green energies, renewables have is to be able to come up with battery storage facility that will make this energy, this electricity, available when it's needed during peak usage.
Yes.
So you would think, Tewksbury, Massachusetts, look at all the environmentalists out there.
Is Tewksbury known for environmentalism? I don't think so.
You don't vote for any Republicans or people who want to drill, baby, drill. We come close
to voting for Republicans. I think we're more Republican than you think, I think.
Yeah, I believe you are, but so what's your take? What are you hearing around town against East Point Energy's proposal?
I don't think this is a political party issue. I think this is a generational issue.
NIMBY?
And there's a NIMBY component to it, but I think when you have this proposal in the backyard of a 55 plus senior community, I think there should have been a lot more work done prior to getting to this point to kind of allay the fears and the safety fears and concerns. And it wasn't done. If it was done, it wasn't done properly enough, right? So now we have these groups of residents who are the demographic of 55 plus.
Who vote. In large numbers.
Who vote. Although someone pointed out that I guess they don't vote as much, and that's why they weren't taking a stand, which I found an interesting side comment made before the public hearing, that the Emerald Court shows up for the lithium battery storage facility hearings, but doesn't show up to necessarily vote, which I don't agree with. Emerald Court, I'm never going to be on a ballot again, but I'm not throwing shade at you for that. But the concern is we have that group very loudly saying NIMBY, and we're all gonna die. We're all gonna burn to death, and it's a horrific horrific accident. And then we have very quietly, I think, the town and the environmental people and kind of the state people saying this is needed and this makes sense. And I don't think anyone's focusing on the profit of the like the revenue that would be generated necessarily is a number one priority. I think they're thinking more like this is inevitable somewhere, and there's no valid reason for it not to be here. So why is this? And I think the problem is the why. Why is this such a big issue? Is because they're doing it in an area where there's safety concerns. And I think those could have been addressed, and those could still be addressed. And I think, again, I said this when Jerry was here and the Killer Bees were here. I said, if I were the state delegation, so if I were Vinatron and Dave right now, and I mean, Feingold, if he wants to show up for something, he hasn't weighed in on anything as I've seen in the past few years.
He shows up every time there's an office to run for.
Well, right, exactly. He wasn't at the public hearing. Nope, it didn't slip. It was totally valid.
My senator in Drake for a while before they redistricted them. But so let's give folks a little understanding here of what we're talking about. So the red dot in the middle there, right above the big top party rental, is where this proposal is. And if you zoom in there, what you would see is a landscaping company. I don't know if it's operational, and then a big industrial equipment machinery repair shop. But all those little kind of spots, vehicle type things you see around that red dot, those are like 18-wheeler fuel storage trucks or whatever. It's a very industrial
But
area.
it's not very active. I mean, from what I've heard, the current situation is it's almost abandoned. It's not very active. It's not very attractive. I don't think it's that people enjoy looking out their back window and seeing it.
It's freaking ugly.
And, would rather see something different or not see something different. I think the ultimate concern is people are afraid if there's some type of fire or emergency, there's only one way to get out. And they don't know how the fire suppression, I don't think we've been presented with any real fire suppression plan. And I think, the company is saying, well, we're not at the point where we need to present it. They're at the permitting stages, they're at the state stage where they have to get all those approvals. And it's a kind of a backwards way to do it.
Sure.
And then they have to present.
Allay the public fears is the last
Correct.
step. We got to worry about environmental stuff.
And that's why if I were it's the state delegation, if I were kind of, hearing all of this, what I would be trying to do at this point is to say, okay, let's pump the brakes on the fear. And let's sit down and let's talk this through with the fire department, with, the company, and say, if this does get to this stage, what are your plans? Preliminarily, tell us how you're going to have a second form of egress to get people out if needed. Tell us how you're going to have a firewall of some sort to keep it so that if there is a catastrophe, that it's not going to encroach onto the neighborhoods around it. And I think that would help a lot. And those are the words that aren't being spoken.
And not to downplay the fire risk, because it is real, and it doesn't help East Point Energy here that a few months ago out in California, there was a massive battery storage facility fire that when these lithium batteries go up, and it doesn't even have to be in an energy storage facility, it can be in your bicycle, on a cell phone, on a plane. When lithium fires light up,
it's scary.
It's hard to put them out. You need specialized equipment and specialized gear. Now, I'm going to assume that our state regulators will make sure that that's
the hope.
Part of the thing. But you do bring up the interesting point, because you talk about egress. How do you get in and out of there if, just look right to the right of that red dot, Bayberry at Emerald Court, an elderly senior citizen
Bayberry's assisted living
facility. Yeah. So, and if anyone has a right to say NIMBY, not in my backyard, it is these people right there, because it is literally in their backyard.
Correct. And with one way out. And I get it. You know, I mean, they were making valid points at the public hearing that when someone has mobility issues, how are we going to get them out in an emergency when there's one road? And it's not even, if you ever drive down there, it's not even a particularly wide road. So to think of fire trucks going in and ambulances going out at the same time is concerning. And I think that was one of the things that could have been nipped in the bud early on had the town said, we're working with the company to create a second form of egress, that we're working with the company to create evacuation plans that would make sense to assuage your fears. And I don't think that has occurred to the level that the residents want to see it happen.
It's somewhat tricky, though, because other than the location right next to Bayberry, it kind of seems like the perfect location.
Correct.
Underutilized industrial zone that's a disaster. Not a lot to the left. Underneath it, some access roads that head out not too far from Main Street, not too far from some other main
and I think part of it,
there.
if you look at look up to the 11 o'clock National Grid, I think that was part of it, is they wanted to be close to
they
National
specifically
Grid.
have said we need to be close to
correct. And I think that's what makes this the perfect location for their purposes, for the purposes of the consumers that would need it. Unfortunately, they haven't addressed the concerns of the resident. And when I say they, I don't necessarily mean the company, because I don't think the company is obligated to at this point. I think it's that the town, the state, the company, to an extent, should have all come together and been able to have those conversations. And I think, unfortunately, like if you saw, the public hearing was televised on Tewksbury Telemedia.
I got a call from a nice old lady. She said to me, you don't need to call back. I don't know who she was. I didn't recognize the number. Have no idea how she got my number, but she said to me, I want you to look into this. Yeah. So I've started.
Yeah. No, and if you watch the public hearing, people make very valid arguments. Some people make emotional arguments that I think, hit home, but not necessarily, relevant to the argument. But when other people when John Curran got up and spoke, I felt so awful for him, because I knew he was speaking on behalf of the town and he was getting booed and yelled at the whole time. And I thought, the poor guy, he's just the scapegoat at this point. If you listen to the words he was actually speaking, it all made sense. He was saying, basically, if this happens, if this board that we're presenting to tonight does approve this is our expectations of what needs to happen next, which were all on point. But he got booed for it. And then I think someone else got up. I left at a certain point because I had to pick my daughter up at soccer. But I did watch it at the end. There was a woman from Wilmington who got up and kind of spoke to the environmental benefits of it. And she was getting booed. And then they were saying, you don't even live in Tewksbury. You shouldn't be able to talk. And it's like, this isn't just for Tewksbury.
It wasn't me booing the environmental.
No, it was me. I was like, what are we doing here? I've never seen people acting this, for refined people in general. It was very surprising to see them heckling the town manager.
Neighborhood issues draw out the best and the worst in people during political battles. There is a Lowell angle to this. I like to say the Daily Pulse is the show that keeps its finger on the pulse of Lowell and the world around it. You mentioned the red dot. That's where the proposed East Point Energy Battery Facility is, right at 11 o'clock, National Grid, which it makes sense to locate this place near them. Let's take by the way, Google Views and Google Aerials are wonderful things, but let's take a look at a different, kind of like a little MapQuest thing.
I love it.
You see the red dot, now we're over to the right of the screen, but go down Main Street, not too far, get to the 99, the Wamassid. Next thing you know, you're pretty close geographically to South Lowell, where the Markey Group is located. Again, AI, an industry of the future, just like battery storage, until nuclear energy comes around anyway.
Right. Well.
But, and I'm saying this fight in Tewksbury is a lot like Lowell.
Yep.
It's people who are fighting what I think is a losing cause. You're fighting against the future.
Right.
And nobody ever, Father Time and the future always beat back relics of the past. So figure out a way to become part of the future or you will go extinct. Tewksbury, the town of Tewksbury seems like, okay, well, we don't have an AI center, but we can get ourselves a battery storage facility that will make us part of the green energy future, which again, I'm skeptical about whether it's coming or not. But what's interesting is the main difference in Lowell is in Tewksbury, you said the environmental groups are helping support the green energy people,
because it's
right?
green energy. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. That's the ultimate conundrum here is we're talking about the potential, and someone made a point. They didn't do it at the public hearing openly, but they kind of in private conversation were saying, do we forget how close we are to Seabrook, right? Nuclear power is something that everyone was very concerned about. We have UMass Lowell has a nuclear, what is it, a reactor? What do you call it?
It's a research, but yes, it's a small scale nuclear reactor. By the way, I've been in that facility when my brother-in-law was a nuclear.
Super impressive. I mean, they talk about it when you do the tour. I did the tour with my son. They talk about it's cutting edge. Like,
that's why all these AI industries are coming to Lowell, and I would assume there'll be some spin out to Tewksbury's, Chelmsford's, wherever, because of what's happening at UMass Lowell and AI.
But do we talk about the concern about if there's a nuclear meltdown, how close we are to any of this stuff? Like, that's the thing that the
not
person
until they
said to
build
me.
One somewhere closer by, which is coming because
Google
of AI.
it. If there's a nuclear meltdown, what's the kind of area of catastrophe? Because I don't think we're that far away from it. So everyone's concerned about the lithium battery meltdown could be up to a 2-mile catastrophic fire craziness. What if the UMass Lowell nuclear reactor burns down? Like, what melts down? Where are we at? So I think, we have to. It's totally appropriate to be afraid. We should always have that. As my husband says, you listen into the ear in your stomach, right? And you make sure you're always when your gut tells you to do something, you do it because that's your body telling you something. There's danger, right? And I don't listen to it always, and he gets very frustrated with me. But the reality is there's always good to be cautious, but we can't let fear rule everything. And I think when you Google lithium battery fires, it's easy to be like, hell no, I don't want that anywhere near me. But then where does it go? Then what do we lose? Then, what happens if lithium batteries go away, Teddy? Where do we go? We go backwards. Is that ever going to happen? No.
At some point, Big Brother's going to step in both on battery storage facilities, nuclear energy, and also artificial intelligence, and tell you what Big Brother always tells you, whether it's in DC or the Big Brother on Beacon Hill, no local options because this stuff is too vital for XYZ, national security, the future, energy, and find a way to become a part of the future as best you can, as safely as you can, as opposed to trying to fight it because you're eventually going to get steamrolled,
and I think
which is my take.
The focus, instead of trying to shut it down completely, I think if there's a way to pivot the focus to just addressing the safety concerns in a way that people at least understand, they might not agree with, but at least understand it. Because right now, there is no safety protocol that I'm aware of. And I think it's been said, that comes next. Like, that comes after we tell you it has to be in your backyard, we'll tell you how we'll keep you safe. And I wouldn't feel comfortable with that plan.
So we're 51 minutes in, and you haven't mentioned your favorite political target yet. But I don't say his name anymore. I do want to kind of, when he shows up here, I'll say his name for two reasons. One, you mentioned John Curran speaking on behalf of the town of Tewksbury. Where's the Board of Selectmen? They got the town managers back, or they got Bayberry at Emerald?
They're not saying anything.
None of them are saying a thing.
No, I'm sure. I mean,
that will be an election issue next spring.
It would be an election issue, but I will say, again, in the rare instance where I will defend the board as a whole, I'm not going to ever defend one particular member of the board who I believe is the chair. Who shall remain nameless, but who probably is going to be running for Vanna's seat.
Is he running for Vanna's seat? Is he running for?
Oh, he's in her district. He's in Vanna's district, and it wouldn't. I heard rumbling. Someone called me, and they're like, "Why would he be at this fundraiser?" It was a fundraiser in Lowell. And I got this random call. I was at my daughter's soccer game, and they're like, hey, just, curious, met your buddy. And I'm like, I love how everyone says he's my buddy. We've never had a conversation with each other. Still waiting for him to show up here one day.
I want the two of you to do a show together.
Oh, sure. I'm ready whenever. I'm sure he's banging down your door for that to happen. But she said, why would he be at this? And I was like, maybe he's running for Vanna's seat. And the minute I said it out loud, I was like, yeah, that's probably what's happening. Because he ran for Dave Robertson's, and it was Maselli's seat.
At the time.
So that wouldn't surprise me. But anyway, getting back to your question. The select board, I would assume, again, having gone through what I went through in Wilmington with the whole rehab, the recovery house, I would assume that they're being advised by counsel not to say anything because it could be used in future litigation against them. Would be my guess. Because the reality is, that's what I don't think people necessarily think of when they're putting things on Facebook and they're going to public hearings and they're booing and they're speaking impassioned, is all of this becomes discovery. if there is the inevitable lawsuit that the town is somehow obstructing something that's legally allowed to happen.
If you are zoned as a commercial site and this falls into that category,
right?
And they meet the criteria set by the state and the town, then neighbors be damned.
Right.
You know, and that's what I worry about here in Lowell with that Markley group discussion, which I called up. Like, you're going to eventually, because my understanding is they were permitted to have 30 some odd diesel backup generators. Now the battle is whether they can, and they have, not all of them, but they have up to that point. They haven't exceeded it. The battle is over whether they can put the diesel fuel in them right now, as I'm understanding it.
And how is city council? Are there anyone coming out for or against it?
100%. It would have got voted down the most recent time. They had to pull it off the city council agenda and wait to kind of mitigate some neighborhood issues. But in Lowell, it's more of a green energy battle. That's who's leading the battle here.
Okay.
The neighbors, I'm sure, can be appeased to some degree, or there'll be so few of them when all is said and done that it won't matter. But the environmentalists are the one kind of leading the charge. But, you know, when you give somebody permission to put 27, 30, whatever diesel generators, to me, it's also implied that they can also put the diesel fuel in them.
Right.
You know, I worry about a long-term legal battle here that you're going to lose, and not
that's what you need. That's what you need to keep in mind. And what's the message you're sending
out to business? Same thing that Tewksbury is going to have to.
And again, I'm not saying that I have any inside information that that's what happened, but if I had to guess why the select board is remaining quiet, is because they're told to remain quiet and let the town manager kind of be the spokesperson of the town with carefully crafted language being said, so that
here in Lowell they can't let the manager run things. They have to get into the weeds. All right, I'm going to end the political talk here, before I let you go, I do want to talk about
Winterfest.
Christmas.
Yes.
Christmas season's coming. I remember last year your group Tewksbury Together.
Yes.
A nonprofit organization that you formed to do some great things out in the community and have been. You put on a hell of a Christmas type thing. You had Santa Claus show up.
We did.
What, the Saturday before Christmas for most of the day? It was. When was it that you had Santa?
Last year it was like the 12th.
It was a couple weekends
Christmas.
Before. He's busy. He's got a lot of toys to make up there.
We had Mrs. Claus do some, read some stories. So this year it's going to be Saturday, December 6th. You're doing it early this year, huh? I think we realized last year we had to do it a little later last year because we were starting everything later. We literally had just become an organization at the in the fall. And this year we're going to try to coincide at the tree lighting's Friday night. We figured kind of make it like a winter weekend. So Saturday we'll have the festival. Smart. St. William's has their big Christmas bazaar on Saturday. So it's kind of like a fun time for the town to be able to go out and about and do different holiday things. So it's going to be Saturday, December 6th. We're looking right now for donations for, trees and table toppers or wreaths or whatever you want to donate. So go to our website, tewksburytogether.org, or go to our Facebook page, which is Tewksbury Together, and send me a message and we will respond right away. It's going to be an open, free community event from 10 to 5. We're going to be working with the Open Space Committee. They're going to do a winter walk for us again. So I think that's going to kick off the day in the morning. They'll do some of the Tewksbury Hospital trails like they did last year. And we're going to try to tie in some other community organizations to make it a fun time for everyone.
All right. Well, if anybody from East Point Energy is listening, and I know you've been on a Chamber Chat podcast with Danielle, so perhaps you're aware of Inside Lowell. If you want to kiss some tush in the community, if you want to, shake some hands and kiss some babies, perhaps you may want to reach out to Jo Marie Buckley and Tewksbury Together to help. What brings people together more than the Christmas spirit, the holiday spirit? Here's a chance for everyone to benefit in the town and maybe realize we're not enemies. We're all actually in the same boat.
Wouldn't that be great if we could have that mentality for a lot of different things, Teddy?
Leave the divisiveness to the podcast.
I was going to say, leave it to you. Leave it to you. I have to say, there was something, I was watching one of our previous episodes, Teddy, and I was like, sometimes I'm just quiet because I don't, you'll say something and then I'm like, I hope that people don't think that I'm quiet because I agree. So I'm going to put that out there right now, people. Sometimes I'm just tired of responding to Teddy and I'll let it go, but please don't think it means I always agree.
I wear you down.
No, No, sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes you just gotta let the balls go. You can't swing at all of them.
Exactly.
You know.
All right, Jo Marie Buckley. Hey, I love holidays. It's because it's a chance to bring you in here and talk more about other stuff than you and Leslie's hair.
Yes.
Or whatever else.
I was like, hair is the good one. I was looking today. I was doing a Leslie when we first started to make sure everything was in proper place. Anyone we mentioned today, any names that were mentioned today, please reach out to Teddy because we'd love to have you on. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for a debate. I'm willing to have you on one-on-one. Yep. And I know I've already talked. I'm going to put this out there. I've already talked to Vanna Howard. I've already offered to Rick's campaign. Anyone else who wants to come in, I would love to have a conversation with you about Tewksbury stuff, about just what your goals are and to get the conversation going.
And this goes for you too, Seth Moulten and Ed Markey as well.
Everybody.
Let's make Tewksbury the center of that congressional district if we can. Jo Marie Buckley, as always, thank you so much.
Teddy.
Happy Veterans Day to you.
You too.
All right. And thanks all of you for tuning in today as well on the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse. Fun discussion. As we say, we can always find a way to tie Lowell into that discussion, no matter what part of the world it is we are talking about. Tomorrow, a lot of Lowell talk. Former Lowell Mayor Bill Savaras will join us. John Wooding from UMass Lowell. We're going to talk a little bit about learning cities, education, and so much else. Big part of Lowell's future as well. On Thursday, City of Lowell Health Director Lisa Golden will join us. I need to talk to her about safe injection sites. I got to talk her out of this whole harm reduction, safe injection lunacy. I'm not even sure she's part of it, but I want to make sure she's not. So I'm gonna have a little fun with her. Plus, she wants to set the record straight on a couple of things as well. And then, of course, Friday, the Daily Pulse Live. It'll be on at 10 a.m. with the Pod Squad and the fabulous Lindsay. You can see now she's got her own banner up there now. Yeah, she's got her. No, I didn't get one of those. I don't get a Teddy Pano sign. She gets a Lindsay sign. But anyway, it's the show that keeps its finger on the pulse of Lowell and the world around it. The Daily Pulse. We'll see you tomorrow. Till then, please stay safe. Please stay warm. And we will see you on the other side.